We're live.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to House Energy and Digital Infrastructure. Sorry that we're running late. Today is Tuesday, February 17th, and we have a little bit of time before our 3 o'clock to talk about the FY27 budget and the letter that we need to turn into approps by Friday. So we're going to get some hard copies so that I can take notes. But just to remind folks of our task here, our job as policy committee is to review the areas of the budget that are relevant to our committee, to take testimony so we understand the implications, and to write a letter of recommendation to House approps. So we have, and I'm just pulling this out, we have 4 budget areas that are under our purview, which basically boils down to the Agency of Digital Services, the Department of Public Service, the Vermont Community Broadband Board, and the Public Utility Commission. So that's sections B105, B233, B233.1, and B234 of the budget. And at this point, we've taken testimony from the PUC on their budget, from the Community Broadband Board, from DPS, and then on the Agency of Digital Services, we've heard from ADS twice, and then from the Department of Finance and Management, and also from JFO. So in addition to writing about those budget areas, we have 2 areas of budget language, which is E233, related to the Public Service Department, and I've briefly checked that out, and E233.1, which is related to the Community Broadband Board. So those are the things that our letter needs to cover. And I've spent time over the weekend working on a draft, and I did email it to committee members, but I didn't post it on our website yet because it is truly not finished. In fact, I marked where I simply ran out of time. But I can walk you guys through it. We're getting our hard copies here. So I did finish a pretty solid draft of the ADS section. Yes, it's quite long, but that's where we're at. And what I've done with this section is I gave it an edit myself and cleaned up some things. I also sent it to JFO to make sure that it's accurate. So JFO wrote back. They made a few kind of changes just for accuracy's sake, but this has been vetted by our folks at JFO to make sure I was kind of boiling down the testimony properly. So we're going to start going through that in a minute as soon as everybody has hard copies. Then I started writing the Department of Public Service. That section's going to be a lot shorter. The main thing that we're going to need to talk about there is that one of the requests that the Department of Public Service made of us, which was to change the cadence of the 10-year telecom plan, 3 years to 5 years. We learned in our testimony that those savings have basically already been booked in the governor's recommended budget, and the language to do that is included in the governor's recommended budget. That is E233. So we'll talk about that when we get there, but you can see where my letter ran out of steam, where I said at the very bottom, add language in the FY27 budget changes the cadence. And then we were babysitting our granddaughters, and I completely ran out of time before I got to the broadband board and the PUC, which I think will also be really short sections. So I checked around with quite a few other committee chairs, and what most committees do, and I think it'd probably be a great approach for us, is we don't have to take a formal committee vote on the letter, but they take straw polls on each section, and we just include the results of that straw poll. So as we go through and talk about this, you can see where I thought we had like a proposal and then a committee recommendation or a committee response. And those will be the areas where we'll talk about it and take a straw poll. So I hope that's a good overview. So if we could just start at the top, like I said, I'll be taking notes. And I can try to get this revised and finished for our next committee discussion on the budget, which is, I don't know when that is, later this week. So, okay, so
So can I
yeah.
ask for orientation sake? Is this a new process? Did we not do this last year?
We did this last year, and last year a lot of our we took a lot of testimony on some tech requests from the Department of Corrections.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I could look at our budget letter last year, but we did the same process. We took testimony from our departments, but I don't think there was as much contested stuff. We certainly didn't have anything near approaching the changes we're seeing in the ADS budget. I just remember the DOC conversation. And I think what we did last year was that we maybe voted on the whole bill, and then we had differing opinions on the DOC thing. So we took a separate straw poll on that.
That I remember. Thank you.
Yeah. And then also everything's a little bit different this year because Approach is asking for, more from us, basically. So, okay. So ADS, so I used for all of this, the testimony from ADS, the testimony from Commissioner Gresham, and the testimony from Lisa Gobbin, and the testimony from JFO. So in case you're wondering where I'm getting stuff, I was drawing from all the testimony we've taken. So at the top, I tried to give 3 bullet points showing, bottom line, these are the key changes. So we have a $9 million increase in the general fund appropriation. We have a $10.8 million increase in ADS allocation charges. And then we have a $5.8 million decrease in ADS service level agreement charges. And I talk a little bit later in the letter about how those latter two things and net out to a $5 million increase. Yeah, Rep. Southworth.
So their ask is $9 million increase in funding, correct?
Through the general fund, yeah.
So the 10.8 million increase in allocations is not added above and beyond that 9 million, correct?
Not in the general fund.
So it's internal.
Yes.
So maybe I'm just being thick-headed with understanding this, but do we even have to go into the increase in allocation and so on? Because the only ask from us is the $9 million increase in their budget.
Well, I felt it was important because it's also a $5 million increase in bill back spending authority. That's going to appear in the different agency budgets. And I had seen somewhere in our testimony, and then Approach had come and said, overall, they're asking for $14 million more. So I felt like we should talk about it.
But they're not.
Well, they're asking for 9 million more in general fund, and they're also asking to be allowed to grab 5 million more from the other departments, much of which is general fund money flowing to them, which will then flow to ADS. So,
Okay, I'm just trying to understand how that, because that's coming from the other budgets. It's not ADS that's asking for that, right?
Right.
I'm not being, I don't, I'm just trying to understand it.
Well, so am I.
yeah.
I definitely erred on the side of being thorough, because what I don't want is for Approach to think that we didn't understand that there was also, kind of $5 million more in bill back authority.
Is there any way that we could clarify that language so it doesn't, I mean, for somebody that's trying to simplify it, so it doesn't appear like it's another increase into their budget?
Yeah, I talk about it in proposal 2 and maybe I just didn't make it clear enough there.
Well,
I read
I mean,
them, and that's
it
just
is-
the only take I had on it.
it is an increase in their budget. There's an offsetting increase in other departments' budgets, because they're gonna send money to ABS instead of spending it themselves, right?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, I think they're getting new general fund dollars.
Well, the 9 million is
Yeah.
new money. That is a new base appropriation.
That's correct. That seems clear. But the 10.8 million is minus 5.8 million, net $5 million increase in service level increase. That $5 million, ABS is saying, hey, can we bill all the other departments an additional 5 million?
Yes, so it actually is an increase.
Yeah, so they're getting $5 million that's coming out of the pockets of the other agencies and departments.
Okay, so maybe that's what I was.
Which,
And actually,
Which they didn't have in their pockets without this increase.
yes, and maybe I could make that more
Their
clear.
spending authority reflects this.
They,
It says,
some of their budgets increased by 5 million.
so down in proposal 2, I mean, I'm not gonna pretend this is easy to write. Okay, so areas that aren't clear, please. But this is a net increase in ADS bill back of about 5 million spread across all state agencies. Maybe I could,
Pay to ADS.
Does this get into the duplicate
Yes.
spending authority that we were talking about?
no. That's proposal 3.
Never mind.
That's okay. Believe me. Why don't we let's start at the top. And maybe there's some sections that aren't there. So I said who we took testimony from. I talked about how, in the past, ADS has basically had no direct appropriations in the general fund, except for, and I took this out because I thought I was getting even more in the weeds, but ADS has had $230,000 in the general fund every year for the GIS office, Thank you.
Services.
Yep, and I had that in and I took it out. So I tried to just say they've been operating almost entirely with no direct allocation to ADS in the general fund. Instead, it's all been cost recovery. So I tried to establish just that fact. And then I talked about how their main internal service fund, because I think this is really relevant information. It was surprising to me, has been moving into the red. So it's gone from $1 million in the black to 28.5 million deficit projected this year. Because, well, one, they're not entirely sure why. But one reason we do know why, because we heard this from Commissioner Gresham, was that ADS is doing necessary work that they're not able to recover the cost for. So,
Which I don't understand.
well, we could learn more about that.
Yes.
But one of the examples we heard was,
Get that part.
which?
Federal.
Yes, federal restrictions. And interestingly, well, I put it in, but I glossed over it a little bit. I mean, I did cut this down from 5 pages.
Yeah.
So that's it. But one of the examples we heard was that AHS, gets all this federal money that flows in, and they're restricted, like they can't pay back ADS for work they do across some portfolios. And then there's work that they're doing that they're not fully recovering. And if we want to, we could definitely get JFO back in to talk more about that.
So what is to keep them from having more of a deficit every year if they're not able to regain those funds by billing? What is it that's going to keep that deficit from not growing continually if they can't charge and regain those funds from the other agencies.
So I got the feeling that splitting up that big internal service fund into 4 service funds, I heard step 1 in that. Like, we're not even 100%
Right,
sure what the
no.
problem is.
Yeah.
So if we have these 4 funds, maybe we're going to be able better to identify and fix the problem. I didn't hear immediate solution.
Yeah.
I heard like, this is what we're going to do first.
I
But
think,
did I misinterpret that?
well, it sounded to me like they were gonna have more accurate billing, more granular billing, so that they wouldn't be billing an agency for service, for a package of services that the agency's granted couldn't reimburse for, couldn't pay for.
Also, the
That
nine,
was my understanding. I don't know if I projected that or if that's accurate, but.
like the 9 million allows them to
Well,
not bill
That's
for a
right.
certain thing,
that's right.
Yes.
That's right. Too.
right? So that presumably that 9 million will offset the 10 million that they're losing every year.
Right.
To some degree, yeah, it's hard.
Yes,
And I think that's really
Yeah.
important part.
that's where I'm
At
at.
the risk of complicating things further. Remember last year's BAA, they wanted $15 million
Oh,
catch up kind of.
You don't want to get into that. That's going to be complicated.
Yeah.
Too much.
So this comes back to
Well,
this
but
key.
where it fits in here is, it's important, because that was part of the,
Right,
the Bill's Act deficit,
right, that's true.
Well,
I
so
think.
we're down to this nitty gritty proposal 2 thing. I'm gonna have to do some work on proposal 2. So we talk about proposal 1, we're gonna have more, we're not gonna have 1 huge internal service fund, we're gonna have 4. And that was the whole pool hot tub thing that Commissioner Gresham was talking about. So that's proposal 1. Yes.
I just want to ask about the word proposal. Could we call it step 1? Because I don't want it to seem like it makes, when you say proposal, it sounds like we're going to be choosing among 3. I don't know.
I see what you're saying.
I just wonder.
I was trying to choose a word that, let's find a better word. I was trying to ask, request,
Request 1.
request.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to not make it sound like a done deal, because I mean, it's up to the legislature. We can change, we could not do this. So what are we gonna call it? Ask, request.
Request 1. And in this, in the case of number 1, you'd even indicate that it's a structural request.
Okay, so, all right, so request 1. And we'll say structural. Okay. Okay. So here's the 4 funds. And should I add, like, I said, this will allow us to see how each category is contributing. We can't really do that now. Should I add a sentence saying like, to Rep. Southworth's point, like, this is the first step to being able to stem these deficits or something?
yeah, I don't think it'd be based on just what we've heard.
This is a hoped for first.
Well, you do say that. This will allow us to see how we build back categories contributing to the IT.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's, the committee supports this change. I mean, I had to put something. So that's where we'll straw poll. Okay, so
Yeah.
that is straw poll number 1.
One other question, just in terms of burying the lead. Do we want to put Hedi supports this, below supports the request right away?
We could.
I just so when you're skin, they're going to be reading so much stuff.
Yeah.
They could say, okay, I'm going to pay attention
So move
extra
that,
because they
so
support
move these little things up. Okay.
me.
Okay. So just so we don't, just so that everybody has their cards on the table, we're not doing our straw poll now, but so I support this change. Folks?
Yeah, I support it.
The first one you need?
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna be pretty good there. Okay, proposal number 2.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, request number 2. And this is, well, this is new money and new spending authority or increased spending authority or something like that. I'll make sure that this is the more money part. Okay. So the direct appropriation, the $9 million, which is, you know, 808 million, whatever. I can't do the
8,680,000.
more than ADS has ever gotten before in the general fund. That is to help them cover the costs that they currently can't bill for or aren't fully recovering. That's 9 million in new money added to the general fund, base appropriation for ADS, recurring, and I did try to talk about upsides and downsides of this. This is new money in the general fund that would expect to be happening every year.
And this is the governor's recommend.
This is the governor's recommend.
And knowing the governor, I assume that this additional 9 million in spending for ADS does not come with 9 million in new tax revenue.
Correct.
Which
I mean,
means
well, I don't know, but
one would assume.
one would assume.
Which means it's coming out of somewhere else. And it would be nice to know where that somewhere else is so we can decide, is it better use of money to put it here or is it better where it is? It's a little tricky to support or not support.
I would seriously doubt that they were
One-on-one.
right, that they were sitting in a room and said, let's take this money from SNAP or let's take this money from right. There's not a one-on, it's
I mean, it comes
$9 million.
It comes from somewhere.
It comes from the bottom line. So there's a $9 billion budget with 85,000 ups and downs.
Yeah.
That's kind of a first job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just
This 9 million, they're already spending, right? This 9 million, they're already spending every year. They're just not recovering
In
it.
deficit.
They're not recovering it. So it comes to, right, deficit to the bottom line. It's coming back from money that's not
Yeah. So
properly allocated. It's just putting a line item into the budget in the general fund. For general funds, they have to generally go for other budgets, other line items.
So I kind of tried to, I think I'm going to add something based on what you just said in this little problematic section. I said this puts a new recurring pressure on the general fund, but this pressure already exists. That's to your point. It's just not being captured by current bill back practices. And I could add, and is contributing to the growing deficit.
I did
Yes.
ask, yes, I did. I asked ADS, how do you fund your deficit spending? You're running your deficit, but like your checks don't bounce, right? Like you've got cash. And did not get a perfectly clear answer, except that, I mean, it's sort of an imaginary deficit. Take it, as you said, there's $9 billion. It shows up as a deficit for them, but there's still cash there that like the bills are getting paid, payroll is clearing, all that stuff. So
Do you think it's just staff time? I mean, it sounds to me like an accounting
yeah,
deal. They're out there doing all this work and probably racking up their hours and saying, we're working on this, and that. And not bringing in the money that they could show they should have earned.
but they're not borrowing the money from the bank. It's still coming out of
Right.
state tax revenue. So I think it is probably just an accounting change, really, right?
I think.
As we talk through it,
I think they can't bill back for some general day-to-day, like they said, timesheets and the like. So they're not billing back for supporting those in the individual agencies, but the other agencies don't have those expenditures either. So the money's getting spent, but it's just not accounted for. There's surpluses in the other agencies.
Would you guys be okay with me getting JFO back in to talk about this section so that we understand this bit better? Okay. We'll have Lisa and James come in. Okay. So let's move on because it's quite confusing, I think. Okay, request 3. All right, we will get JFO ASAP. Okay, now here's the spending authority thing. So I tried to clarify that bespoke, now customized services is something we all really care about because these are the big projects that get in the news and take years and cost, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. So then we say what's changing, what stays with ADS, and what moves to the agencies. And then I added a little bit about here's where these projects can be tracked and why we care about the dashboard. And then I talked about our concerns. And we talked about, we were worried that and it sounded like ADS was worried that they wouldn't be able to see expenditures directly. And that we were worried about whether that would impact ADS's ability to do its job. And that we were worried about the Upward dashboard. And then we wondered about whether the shift in spending authority could kind of mess up the vendor payments. And Lisa looked into that at our request. And she she sent a response to us. She testified, and then she sent a response, and that's in everybody's email and posted on our website. And so I just took her responses and pasted them into this letter. And
So one of our concerns is not having visibility on total IT expenditures, right?
yes, and then I talked about that in the next section.
Do you want to be, you kind of say it, but you want to be more explicit about saying this decrease in bespoke, I guess, with a corresponding increase in the corresponding agencies' budgets. This should be a revenue, from a global perspective, should be a revenue neutral line. This, I'm saying.
Yes, I do. Equals cost neutral.
To the state, I mean, it's decreased for ADS.
Yeah. I was just asking, it's not revenue, it's like cost neutral.
Oh. Yeah,
Okay,
I almost think what Chris just stated is where I was trying to get with request number 2. Same sort of information, and I think that's where I got with that.
yeah, but that one's not. That's why I want to talk to JFO about it. Like, this one is it's gonna go like.
Right. I know what you mean. Yeah.
I won't get into my hand motions, but the first one really is $5 million more in ability to charge. It really is more.
Yeah. I won't go back to that one. I promise you.
Okay. We can't, I would love to have JFO because that was definitely the section where I was, looking at a bunch of different notes and looking at everybody's memos again. And that section was the most painful to write. Okay. And then our remaining concerns, and maybe I just timely and comprehensive access to data. So will ADS and the legislature still have timely access to financial expenditure data? And then I said that Commissioner Gresham acknowledged our concern. He pledged, to work closely with ADS. And then Lisa had suggested that we write a follow-up memo to Commissioner Gresham. And she specifically suggested what we could push for. And I thought that was a good idea. I think she was even going to maybe help us with the draft of that. And then I finally wrapped my head around Rep. Sebelia's concern, which took me a little minute to understand. which is that if we're thinking about these big ticket projects and we look at our ETMO dashboard, we can see the total implementation cost at the outset and the total implementation cost now. But that's like a multi-year appropriation. So it could be, $80 million this project is going to take from 2023 to 2028 or whatever. But what's in the budget for it this year? It took me a long time to wrap my head around what you were talking about. And I didn't know what to do with that except for flag it as a concern. To say that if we want to look, you'd have to look up, if we want to know what we're spending this year. I thought I gave an example.
Yeah, just one example. Second paragraph.
Oh, to give just one example. Thank you. Right, ERP. So we know that it was supposed to cost 45 million. Now it's supposed to cost 28 million. It's a multi-year project. But what are we spending this year? And so for us to do that kind of work, I'm sure the number's out there, but project by project, we'd have to go to every agency's budget.
So when I was asking about this, it sounded to me like they allocate the total amount in the year that the project
That's correct.
is authorized,
That's correct.
like a transportation.
It's in the they propose it in the budget.
When a project is approved, it is funded.
Where does the money go?
Is it proposed in the budget?
Well, it comes out of that year's
I
budget.
would imagine, yeah.
So
It's fully funded when it's approved to go. When the RFP goes out, that money is there for that.
So the 45 million to go back to this example. So the enterprise resource planning project, that 45 million, we should see in the 2023 budget.
Correct.
But then-
So how do we know how much how do we know how much they're spending this year
Well,
of that?
they could tell us, but the other thing is that if as the project increases in cost, so it's 48 million in your example, that extra 3 million would have to show up in the subsequent year's budget.
Right. Yeah, it's a change order of the contract. Yeah, like.
So it's appropriated fully in the year that it's approved.
Well,
Okay.
that was my.
I think we have to make sure that exact language is correct.
Is that a J? Let's
That
talk
it's
to Jeff about
appropriated
this too.
fully in the year that it is. I mean, that means something to me. Appropriated fully means all the money's there. But was all the money proposed in the budget that year? Or did it, was it proposed over time?
So in order for it to be put out to bid, that project has to be fully funded.
Okay. I think
But we heard from the Seaways people, they got $7 million last year. And then with a match, so they have $15 million and they're still in the RFP phase.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if
And there's no
they
money
show
in
up
this
as
year's
like
budget.
blank on the EPMO
if you had
dashboard.
a
Because it's not.
It hasn't been.
paid.
if you've got a 45 million project, it wouldn't surprise me at all if when the RFP is approved, the treasurer has to stick $45 million aside somewhere, but it gets budgeted year by year. So the cash is sitting there.
Yeah, I don't know that.
We should definitely.
We should have someone
Okay.
who knows instead of.
So we need JFO help on request 2 and what are we spending this year sections
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I merrily moved on to the Department of Public Service. So we have not even talked about this. And then I found the language already in the budget.
Well, there's 4 proposals they have, right? So that are all 4 in the budget?
Well, for starters, I literally had to go babysit right when I was about to look up the language. There was a beach ball crisis.
Or-
Well, let's look. I saw the cadence
Where did we get the 4 proposals from? I'm not remembering that.
They
It
came
was the
in
request from them.
when they
They-
testified. Yeah, but the only one related to the budget was the cadence of the 10-year
Okay,
plan.
right.
They wanted, there was a
TCAP,
conversion to a limited service thing.
yeah,
And the changing the cadence were the only ones that were related to the budget. The other things they wanted us to do were disband the TCAP,
Right, right.
change the cadence of their, no,
The IRPs.
the
IRPs.
IRPs.
Oh, the RCs.
Yeah. So those aren't, I didn't drag those in here because they're not budget related, but the budget language. What is it? E233? Yes. We can look at our language sections right this very minute. Okay. So that was where I ran it. What are our numbers? Sorry, 233. Almost there. Okay. 233 is, okay, so I did, these are our only language pieces and they both have to do with DPS. E233 is converting one limited service classified financial director 4 position to a permanent classified financial director 4 position. So this was the request they made to take a vacant. And I just put a sentence about this in there. This did not seem like a big deal to me. Converting a vacant limited service position to a new and slightly more costly role. So that is E233. But E2331, that language in the budget changes the cadence of the telecom plan from every 3 years to 5 years. So we definitely need to weigh in on this as a committee because it's happening.
I think it's fine. Yeah,
Unless
because I
we,
think-
well, it may just be happening anyway. But our committee should decide whether we oppose it or how we feel about it. Yeah.
So I think this whole section of statute needs to be rewritten. It has needed to be rewritten for some years, and so I think it's fine to change the cadence of it and not spend another $500,000 on a project that meets the statute but not our current policy.
Couple things they said in their testimony when Commissioner Johnson and Deputy Commissioner Wilson came in. They did lay out, if people want to go back and look at it, they laid out the reasons why they think it's okay to go to every 5 years. And I'm not opposed.
It's not an implementation.
Right. Yeah. And that's important. Can you explain that? Because I think that's really important for people to understand.
And it is misunderstood wildly.
Yeah.
So it is really helping developers understand the situation on the ground, what people have, where there's opportunity, what the state policies are. That's basically what it's intended for.
It's like a
So
high level guide.
I equate it to, like I said, which we do in our region, a comprehensive economic development strategy, which is not necessarily an action plan. It's data. It says, here are things that should happen, but it's nobody's job. It's, actions that are fundable and developed using a public process. So.
The other thing they said, which definitely stuck out for me, is that the next comprehensive energy plan is due in 2028. And that, if they have to do the telecom plan this year, they've already cut the money. They've
And
already
the
cut the
staff
money from
over
the budget.
years.
Yeah.
Over years.
So I think they said that would come at the expense of outreach and staff time on the comprehensive energy plan.
So would there be any contradictions or changing the cadence to this plan with changes made with cell tower siting 248A that went through the House?
Say more.
I'm just throwing that out there because if
You
we.
mean in terms of their workload? Well, the bill we passed out extends the sunset to 2030
Right.
At this time.
at
Right,
this time.
But I just, to avoid a contradiction with.
Yeah, so it
whatever.
would be, we'll see what happens with that bill in the end, but it would be comprehensive energy plan in 28, telecom plan in 29, cell towers 248A sunset in 2030, so it would go boom, boom.
Yeah, I just wanted to voice that, that's all.
That's actually good to think about.
Yeah.
So none of those things at this point would be like the same period.
248 is at the PUC. Yes, it's at the department.
Yes,
Yes.
indeed, correct.
Good.
True.
Answer that.
Yes.
All right, so like I said, we're not doing our official straw poll yet, but it sounds like I should add Hedi supports this change.
I would also note that this was done in-house. And there were a lot of complaints about timing. There was a particular citizen advocate who had a lot of problems with it. And, they end up advocating it to go get contracted out. We have a lot of one-time funds, but it did used to be done in-house.
Okay. Okay, and then I recall that there is nothing to say about the broadband, not much to say about the broadband board and the PUC, but I'll look at their testimony, I'll summarize whatever we learned in just a couple sentences and
Yeah, because the broadband didn't have any access.
no, and neither did the PUC. Okay. So next step, JFO. Okay, so Alex, right after we adjourned, let's find a time. I'm feeling soonish.
There's a time on Thursday we could do it then.
Thursday, yeah. I'm gonna try to look for a sooner time.
Okay.
Just because that doesn't give me much time to rewrite the letter and or make any final revisions, and then we have to do a straw poll.
I think actually Wednesday afternoon before 4, there would be time to.
Great. Can you see if they could come in?
Mhm.
Okay, thanks, everybody. That's good. Should we just keep going? Or do people need a little break?
Just a little.
Okay, is Ledge Council's coming, right?
Ellen is under the weather. She's in the waiting room right now on Zoom.
Okay, can you ask Helen if it's okay with her if we start at 3:15? Okay,
No, just random noises.
okay, I
Ignore
heard,
me, Madam Chair.
okay, thanks, everybody, for that. Why don't we go offline and